What's happening, guys? Welcome to a very special edition of Born Offside. We are back. We're back with a midweek special. I'll tell you what, apologies to everyone that was looking forward to Andy Bernal. We've had to move him to next week because we've got he didn't even know who that is.
So I know who it is.
Yeah,
I know who
you
it
do
is.
know who he is. An awesome character. We've delayed that one for next week because we had a very special guest pop up. We'll get to that in a second. But you're back, OLANTEKKERS.
Thanks, man.
It feels like you're a guest now. You haven't been here for a
Yeah,
while.
I've been MIA for a couple of weeks, but I'm back.
Over in the
Do you know what I
States?
mean? Yeah. I was in the States for my brother's wedding, doing a few things, but yeah, I'm back.
Are
Man.
you a big
back.
deal in the States as well? Do they know who you are over there?
Nah, they've got no idea.
Okay.
So it's amazing. I actually like it because
It's a nice break.
it's funny. So I was boarding the flight. You know, obviously I got my leg.
Yeah.
I'm boarding the flight, and a guy comes up to me. He's like, "OLANTEKKERS, mate. You know, you want to go in the TSA? I'll let you through." I was like, "Cheers, mate."
Yeah.
Get to America, they're like, "Just fucking get in the line, mate." I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. No, it's good, man. I like it. It's a humbling experience, but I also like just the States in general, man. It's a good place.
Yeah, lovely. Besides gun laws. But we won't get too political. We probably will, actually, today on the pod. Let's now go to another guest because the cat's out the bag, literally. Cat Haddad is in Bali. That's what Nike ambassador deal.
Yeah, she's changed.
Works for the A-Leagues, works for Optus Sport. Now she just fucks off to Bali.
Does what she wants now, yeah,
She's
man.
living the life. She's away, but we've swapped her for Cat Sasso. Very
Howdy.
fitting cat. Melbourne Victory diehard.
Yes.
And
I've
you...
gone for the victory colours today. I thought it would be a bit much if I wore a victory kit, but we've gone for the colours.
No, you could have worn a kit. There's no problem with that. You changed your flight back home to Melbourne to
I
be here
did.
today.
So I was meant to
didn't
go home last night
Yeah.
at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
and last minute we decided that I would be staying. So
you told me
G
you
me
had
up.
to be on it. I didn't decide anything. You forced your way onto the podcast.
I did. I said,
Which is fair
if
enough.
you don't put me on this,
Yeah.
I'm never coming back.
Yeah, so be careful. You're sitting next to her, so be careful right now because our very special guest today, and I'm going to play this music for you.
Love the intro.
It is May the 4th. May 4th. It is Star Wars Day. He's the supreme leader of the A-League. Jokes. It's the CEO of the A-League, Danny Townsend. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Pleasure. I'm not going to be as exciting as Andy Bernal, but hey, look, let's see what we can do.
You've heard some of those stories,
Yeah.
yeah? He's
Oh,
got
yeah.
plenty. He's got
He's a
plenty.
good man.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on, mate. And we announced yesterday that we're going to have Danny on the podcast. I'm not much of a Twitter person myself, Danny.
Oh, really?
But I'm not. You know I'm not. And I have reason not to be. But Twitter went off,
It did, man.
Yeah.
right? You guys are very much on
I'm
Twitter.
I'm 1 year into soccer Twitter, and I'm still finding my
I've
feet,
been
man.
in the trenches of soccer Twitter for a very long time.
Well, that's part of the reason we have you on here, Kat, because we feel as though you may protect us from some backlash.
Got a bit of allegiance. Well, because
She's our protection,
You
right?
are a soccer Twitter person. So,
Yeah.
they went mental, right? They went
did,
mental
yeah.
last night. A lot of people... We have a lot in common, you and I, Danny.
What's that?
Because a lot of these people don't like
Good looks?
you. He's won me over already. You know what?
He's sweetening you up, Claude.
Put all the finals in Sydney. He's won me over already. I love it. I love it. You know the way to my heart. But a lot of people don't like us. I don't know why, but I didn't move the finals to Sydney, so I don't know why they don't like me. I'm going to crack many jokes on the podcast.
Go ahead.
No. But look, they were quite crazy about it. But our diehard fans, we appreciate all our Born Offside fans because they sent in a lot of legitimate questions.
They did.
And they really want to hear from you. It's great that you've jumped out to chat to us here
Pleasure.
today because people want to hear a lot more from you and they haven't heard much from you, especially in that Twitter sphere. Is there a reason? A lot of people want to know, is there a reason no one's heard from you?
Yeah, well, what went down obviously was pretty heavy, and I think there was some stuff went on there that was sort of threatening to my family and things like that, which was pretty crazy. And I just thought, give it a break for a while. I missed it actually because there are a lot of good people on there, and in my time at Sydney FC, I spent a lot of time on social media dealing directly with fans and trying to be as transparent. And hopefully one day I'll be back there.
Yeah, right. We do want to see you on there. That's. I mean.
I've got more time on my hands.
it's
though.
a shame.
Yeah, exactly right. You're probably a lot better that you're not looking at your phone. But I mean,
Yeah.
football fans are a bit crazy, Kat.
Well, it's a shame that it's gotten to that point because Twitter is a really good platform to be able to interact with fans on a very personal level. And it's a good place where you can find out exactly what it is that fans are wanting from the league and wanting from the clubs and whatever. So it's a real shame that it got to the point where you've had to, for your own safety.
Yeah, look, I think I don't want to
Kinda go AWOL.
don't want to be melodramatic about it, but it sort of was what I was told to do at the time. But I think as I said, at Sydney, I used to get on there and you'd see people going down a path where they were misinformed, and you could use it to say, "Hang on, here's the
hold on,
reasons
this is
why
like-
we did this." Or not everyone always agrees, but if they understand the rationale for a decision, not at a club level on signing a player or re-signing a coach or whatever it might be, it was always good to try and get some facts out there. So look, I think as time goes by, I'm sure I'll be back.
You ever tried to launch your own merch?
No, I did see there was a T-shirt
Yeah.
down at Melbourne Victory game, which was a picture of me with a big red cross across the front.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but
Yes.
someone told me about it.
That's not bad. I mean,
Just don't try and do it.
he tried.
Did you?
I mean,
How'd that go for you?
Well, terribly. I got a. To be
failed
fair, I even got memed by Central Coast Mariners. So
Yeah.
that was I got
really
absolutely
nice.
memed. But it was, you know what? It was nice because it was like at the end of the day, you need that sometimes. I think it's like, all right, cool. I get it.
You need to be humbled.
Don't take yourself too seriously. So now I'm like, but also I wasn't aware of like the soccer Twitter or what it entails. You know what I mean? So it's like as soon as you buy into it, you're done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As soon as you reply, you're finished. I didn't know that.
that's
So
it.
I thought it was TikTok. I was like, my bad. So now I just leave it up. I say my tweets and I just get off.
yeah. That was a baptism of fire for you. But
For sure.
look, a red cross on you, that's really not that bad. Graham Arnold copped a big dick in the mouth. You
Well,
remember
he
that one?
did, and look,
Wonders.
Arnie did call me. I think it was in the height of that situation, and he thanked me for now being the most hated man in football, as opposed to him. So that is what it is. But no, look, I think it was what it was. But I understand people get emotional, and that's why they love the game. And you got to listen to them, and I think we learned a lot of lessons during that period.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to touch on that in a second. But for now, I was quite interested in your footballing career because before being a very successful businessman and going away and working in all different sports around the world, coming back into the local game, before that, you were a footballer yourself.
That's right.
Played in an NSL final.
I
with
did,
Sydney
yes.
United against Ange Postecoglou's South Melbourne.
That is correct.
That's wild.
Right.
Done your research, mate.
Small
Massive.
world.
That
You
is-
scored that day.
I did. It was a
So what were you,
bolter
an
from
8,
40
an
yards
8,
out.
a 10? What were you?
I was like an average winger. I was actually a professional substitute. Seriously, I think I made something like 60 NSL appearances, and I think 48 of them were off the bench.
Was that because of the
wow.
knee?
No, it's because of shit.
You know what's good to be self-aware.
Yeah, we talked
see.
about that upstairs. But yeah, no, look, it was great experience. I loved it. You know, any time you get to play, in a professional competition, it's a privilege, and I got to do that for a little while in my career, and then it ended pretty early and got on with my life.
Yeah, and that game, unfortunately, you guys lost that
We
day.
did lose. We were the premiers.
Yeah.
And we lost to South Melbourne down at the old Olympic Park. That's how long ago it was.
You had to
Yeah.
play. You had to play at South Melbourne because
Yes,
they won the preliminary
they
final.
did. We went back to Sydney because in those days the preliminary final was the 1 and 2 played off.
Yeah.
Whoever lost that game went into the preliminary
into the
final. We
preliminaries,
went
yeah,
back
so
to
you had to go
Sydney,
back, yeah.
played Perth Glory, beat them, and then went back into the grand final down in Melbourne.
But I feel for you because the final should have just been in Sydney from the start. It should have just been there
Yeah.
from the start.
Well,
and I want
Oh,
that
if
game.
it had it your way.
Well, if
it
that
would
would
have
have been the
been.
case, we would have hosted it that
Exactly,
time, but that wasn't the
exactly.
rule back then. And
The old NSL days, we miss it. But no, I love it. And then, of course, as we say, you did have to finish because of the knee injury, which
Yes.
sucks. And I think it's something we can relate to. I mean, lots of injuries. We always talk about it. I know Olan. He's in a lovely relationship now. But before that, I used to go out a bit with Olan,
There you go.
and he did used to bring up the knee injury a lot.
Yes.
I would have gone. You ever heard of Luton
Was that
Town?
the pickup line?
It's not even a pickup line.
No, I've heard it. I've heard it. I would have gone
It is.
pro if
I-
it wasn't for the knee. I wanted to know, Danny, did you ever use that at a bar, at a club? Like, I was the big deal, but the knee just stopped me from being...
No, because no one's going to believe that.
No.
I just think, at the end of the day,
You just
gotta
hand them
be-
your business card.
Yeah,
and say,
exactly.
"Look,
Yeah, you just got to be happy with what you got.
Google how much that worth.
Yeah,
That's what you have to do.
yeah. Nah, not for me.
No, that doesn't work. You would have heard that a few times. The old, I would have gone pro if it wasn't for this.
Look, if you're not actually a pro footballer, I don't want to hear it.
Oof. There you go.
Damn, you see how like bougie she is? Like,
shit, right?
come on, what if I'm on the come up?
Kidding.
Come on.
Anyway.
I'm going to cop it for that.
Yeah, you probably will. Those athletes,
Okay,
very
sure.
trustworthy. Those athletes. Let's move on though. Of course, great business career. You then came back to the local game and you were CEO of Sydney FC, which excites me because I was very excited for this podcast, talking a lot of local football. It's very important to me to have a Wanderers, a Victory, and a Sydney FC fan on the pod here today.
I'm not a Sydney FC fan. I love all my clubs equally. I know where you're going. I know where you're going. I was actually a funny story. I was at the Wanderers medal the other night, which they allowed me in the building, which was nice.
Yeah.
And Mark Rudin got up and in his speech he thanked Greg O'Rourke for coming from the APL.
Yeah.
And he said, we also have Danny Townsend, the CEO of Sydney FC, in the room. And everyone laughed.
So love
Pissed
it.
themselves laughing. But,
Love that.
At my expense.
Yeah, cheeky jab. No, but it's very exciting now because Sydney are playing Wanderers in a do-or-die clash for the first time ever. They meet in finals, which is massive over here.
Huge.
Melbourne, a long way away from it.
Well,
so you guys can enjoy the break and just start again.
Yeah, we've been enjoying the break since the start of the season.
Yeah.
I'll
Lucky
be
for
honest.
you, no
God bless.
relegation. Eh?
Love them. Well, yeah, not yet.
Yeah, so you better get your stuff sorted. But look, the big thing we do want to, of course, talk about, we wanted to open the floor to some of our fans, and sifting through all the people that don't like a lot of us, we actually found some good stuff and some good questions that people want to know. And I think Australian football, everyone wants to know about that finals decision. It's a massive thing, right? But I want to put that to the side for a second. You became CEO of the APL in a moment when they split from the FA. It was a massive change for the game in this country. Broadcast rights deal changing, everything changing. Let's take away that finals decision for a second. Is football in a better place now than it was 2 years ago?
I think absolutely it is. You know, we made that decision to break away from the FA for the good of the game, ultimately, and it was challenging. You know, we had COVID in the middle of that. We had no broadcast deal. We had no money. We left behind a lot of money in for the FA to get out of that structure. And you know, we managed to convince Paramount that we were worth investing in. We went and raised capital from a sophisticated private equity company in Silver Lake who believed in the game, and I think without that we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about the A-League. It was that close at the time, and I think we've come through COVID in good shape. Yeah, there's been some challenges. There's always going to be challenges in football. That's just what it is. But I think the main thing is everyone believes in where we can take the game. Whether you agree or disagree with decisions here and there, we all want the same thing. We want football to be the biggest sport in this country on every level, and I think we've got a path to do that.
Yeah, and it felt like it was on an upward trajectory, and the World Cup was big too. A lot of A-League players playing in that World Cup, scoring goals to get us out of the group. It was big for the A-League just as much as it was for the Socceroos. Sort of flares all around the country. Bring the flares back, eh?
It was a vibe.
Honestly,
No pyro,
I
no
back
party.
it.
Yeah,
I back it.
Yeah, we love it.
Like,
we love
seriously,
it.
I mean, you go to Amy Park and if you're a Victory supporter, you get literally strip searched, which is, I mean, fair enough. Like, given everything that's happened with Victory supporters recently, I get it.
Yeah.
But you could just let the Yayas bring them in or something. I don't know.
Put it in. That's what they do in Greece. They put it in the bags.
Yeah, like,
The grandmas.
it's great. But
Yeah. Look,
just don't throw them at people.
No, of course.
Yeah,
Yes, of course. And maybe don't throw them back at the people that threw it at you. But we'll get to that. Let's no. But I do want to talk about that finals decision because it felt like football was on a great trajectory. The World Cup buzz and everything. A couple days after we are eliminated from the World Cup, that decision came out, and it was like an absolute sandstorm that followed. Right, and it was crazy. And to me at the time, I almost felt like, and even you coming from the UK, where you were talking about how the FA Cup finals always in the same spot. You didn't really understand it. I think I'm a Sydney sider. I remember you were up in Sydney at the time. You went crazy at that.
I was devastated, I'll be honest. I think, obviously, given how long it's been now, I've calmed down about it and can actually look at it from a logical perspective. But when I first found out about that, I actually felt sick. Like, I felt sick at the fact that, all right, Victory this season, awful.
Yeah, but last year
we had a great season and it literally went right up until the end. Last game it was hard. Like, as a Victory supporter and as someone from out of New South Wales, it was really difficult. And it was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
Why has this decision been made?
Yeah. And I guess
where does that come from?
People like you want that clarity. You came to Australia. You missed like Adelaide's home final was sick. Brisbane's home finals back in the Raw Salona days were sick.
Yeah, I've seen it all online.
Danny, firstly, just why was this decision made? Was it purely financial?
No, it wasn't. It was partly. Obviously, we're a commercial organisation and we don't have the luxury of billion-dollar TV deals in order to bridge the gap between where we are as a league and where the AFL and rugby league are. So we've got to be creative, we've got to do things differently. And not just in this area, but in lots of different areas. Now, digital investment and things like that are part and parcel of that strategy to bridge that gap. So it was commercial, but it was, at the same time, we did believe that we had a government, for the first time in our sports history, want to invest in our showpiece events for men and women. You know, and me and many others, I'm sure you guys, have always sort of been disappointed in the fact that governments don't give our sport as much as they give other sports. Sure. And we felt that New South Wales government at the time, after speaking to other governments, they were the ones that really lent in and offered us a significant amount of money. Now, we also thought we don't have a week in our game where we all stop and go, it's all about football. And because we don't know where the grand final is until potentially 6 days before it.
Okay.
So, you know, you saw with the women's grand final the other day, we got near enough to 10,000 people there because we had 3 months to get in the community, engage people, get them along. Now, I'm not naive. We got a bit of luck. We got Sydney FC in the grand final and we had a bloody nice sunny day. Yeah. If it pisses down and it's Melbourne Victory versus West United, probably different story. So, look, we're realistic and I think we executed the communications of that poorly. Like, and it was, I wouldn't say it's any one individual's fault because the clubs were all there to be a part of that announcement, and they blinked. But they blinked because they saw the vitriol online and went, "Holy shit, this isn't good."
Yeah.
And so I don't blame anyone. These things are tough. I had to
So
stand there.
are you saying that some of the clubs agreed and then backflipped on some of the decisions when they saw how much of an uproar there was online?
Yes. Yeah. We spoke to all the clubs in the lead up saying, look, this is going to be challenging. I can't sell this into your fans because they're not fans of me. Yeah. They're fans of Melbourne Victory. They're fans of Melbourne City. They're fans of Adelaide. And when the club comes out and says, this is important for our club, being recognised as part of the national sports calendar in Sydney every year at this time is important for us, then a fan might go, shit, I don't like it. But if my club is really behind it, then I might accept it and maybe get used to it. We never gave it that chance because it unravelled before we even got to it. And look, I don't want fans to think that we were disrespectful of them because the intention wasn't that. It just unfortunately sort of came out that way.
Did you guys kind of expect that level of backlash?
We expected any change is always hard, right? And people go, what does it mean for me? Okay, shit, I'm never going to be able to see my team play a home grand final. That's not true because it was a 3-year deal. And we frankly, we haven't said a lot, but we had a 10-year opportunity. We didn't take it because we wanted to test it, right? We wanted to test it. And we expected there to be backlash, but the whole strategy was the clubs would come out and pour water on that and hopefully get our way through it and get to a point where everyone's accepting of it and gives it its best shot. And I think that's when, I went through the journey of speaking to every fan group during, Christmas and just after Christmas, and they were great. When you get into a one-on-one dialogue, go back to your Twitter conversation, right? When you can sit in front of someone, explain to them the rationale, why we did it, why it's good, get why it's bad. People sort of are accepting of it and move on. And the active supporter group that was formed there, we had really good positive dialogue with them. We listened, we understood where they're coming from. But in reality, if we had our time over again, we'd do it differently.
My thought process and my questioning as well is, so you saw when there was the big Super League, right, that was happening in Europe and with those teams, and they were going to form that, and you saw the uproar with the fans, right? And that caused them to backflip on their decision that they originally made. Did you guys, from the uproar, ever think that you possibly had made the wrong decision?
Yes, absolutely we did. And we had meetings with all of the clubs very quickly after that. We convened an owners meeting and said, guys, what do you want to do? Because if we want to backflip, we're going to backflip, but we're going to go tell the government that we can't fulfill our obligation. We could have probably got out of it. But I'm never going back to a government again asking for any money because they're going to go, well, you guys didn't want it last time. So then they went, okay, well, let's keep going. And I think, in the end, what happened in Melbourne was sort of the end of any chance of change because it sort of meant, well, if you disagree with a decision, do we go and do that? And then we'll change? Because then next time people don't like something, they'll just do that. And that's not, we would never want to see that again. And I think Melbourne Victory fans, in the vast majority of them are great people, right? Very small, except for Kat. Very small minority, including Kat. Just we're behind that day, and that was one we never want to see again. So.
Absolutely. Going back to how you said that there were certain clubs that backflipped on that they agreed to this decision. Can you actually kind of tell us exactly who agreed to this? Because it seems as though certain clubs have come out and they've said, we didn't know about this. We had no intentions of this happening. We didn't want this to happen. We had no say in this.
So your mate at Victory did that, yeah?
Yeah, and then he turned around and it was like, hello, you agreed to this.
Yeah.
So which clubs can you tell us and who exactly it was that came to this decision? Was it like a unanimous thing?
We just, in full transparency, we built a budget. Right? And in that budget, you then determine how much money can the league make to pay the clubs. Because keep in mind, this is the other misconception that people forget, is that we're not the FA. I work for the 13 clubs, right? And every dollar we make goes back to the 13 clubs. So when we look at a budget and go, how do we generate enough income to distribute to the clubs so they can spend money on players, on youth development, on women's programs? They want as much money as they can get. So we put a budget together and say, we think we can get a government to support our grand final. This is the amount of money we think we can get. This is going to go into the pot. You're going to get your share. Yeah, good, let's do it, right? So the board sign off on a budget. We then got a deal done. The board unanimously signed off on that deal. And the board are representative of the 13 clubs. So then we went on to a comms conversation where we met with all of the clubs and said, this is just before the announcement because you can't go out and talk to fans. You can't go out and talk to clubs months in advance because commercially they're sensitive. Governments don't want this stuff in the public domain before it's ready.
Yeah.
So the consultation period was challenging, which is what I told the fans in the follow-up. But every club was across it. Every club was aware. Look, like I said, I don't go back and blame anyone. Some people find leadership really hard.
Yeah.
You know, hard decisions are easy.
Yeah.
No, hard decisions are hard for a reason. They make you money. You know, and easy decisions send you broke.
Yeah.
And if we want to take our game where we want to take it, we're going to make hard decisions.
Yeah.
And you've also got to be willing to reassess them. And that's what I said at the time with the actives is that, guys, look, if you give it everything you can and it fails, I'll be the first guy to go, we're not doing that again.
Okay.
Right? But I think ultimately any decision you make, you can't walk blindly into the forest and think that it's going to stay forever.
It felt to me like, you know, schoolyard. You got the bully you got to talk to, and imagine I talk to you guys, and I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to talk to that fucking bully today. You're going to back me up. Yeah, you're going to back me up. You're going to back me up because he's huge. So you two are going to back me up.
And then as soon as
And
you
I
go,
could be
we
like,
go,
hey,
whoop.
hey, you big lump of shit. We think, and I turn around and everyone's gone. That's kind of how it was. It was just you up against
I sort of said it was like, you know, when you're in the trenches at war and you go, we're ready to go, guys. You go, yeah, and you jump over and you're roaring it, and you're like, then you realise you got no weapon and no body armour on. But look, it was what it was. It was not a great time for me, my family, for my colleagues at work. Like, it stung hard for all of our, like, I've got a team of people that work their asses off.
So just to clarify, so you've got obviously the representatives of the clubs. The clubs themselves that have gone out and given those things that saying, oh, we didn't know about this. They knew about it. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
There you go.
That's
So
all
that
I
clears
need.
it up for you.
But look, at the end of the day, look, like I said, you know, there's also got CEOs, owners. There's different levels.
Different
so
people.
who tells who inside clubs?
So
Once a
how
club
do
knows?
you? Is there any plan in place that you, as the leaders of kind of this league, to avoid this happening again?
Yeah, I think it's part of the work we're doing with the fan representative group is part of that. And we've spent the last 3 months looking around the world at different structures and going, what does best practice look like and what does it look like through an Aussie lens? You know, I could have gone out there and gone, yeah, we'll put a fan council together.
Yeah.
We're going to tick a box. But we genuinely don't want that to happen again, right? And the way you avoid that is you put proper things in place that allow us to hear fans in an effective way at a club level first. Fans don't want to talk to the league.
Yeah.
They want to talk to the club that they love.
Okay.
And then I want to talk to the representative from that club about league matters. Yeah. And everyone has a voice. And what we put in place, I think, is going to be really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, that makes sense.
Also, in regards to, all right, so the finals are now in Sydney, right?
Yeah.
And
No, the grand final.
The grand final, sorry, are now in Sydney. In regards to people who may not be able to afford to come travel, what measures are being put in place by you guys to accommodate that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And one thing, and then we committed to doing that through our consultation with the fan groups. We've negotiated discounts for airlines through Qantas, who are our partner, and IHG, who are our hotel partner. But we're also conscious that not everyone can afford flights. Right?
Yes.
So we're working closely with the clubs that are still alive. So City, Wellington, Adelaide, who are outside of the New South Wales area, to look at what does it mean. We've literally checked on cruise ships. You can get a cruise ship if you got a year in advance to know that from Melbourne to Sydney, it's actually quite cheap, right? But we didn't know that 12 months in advance, and we don't know Melbourne's going to be in it. But we looked at that level of depth. Trains, buses, we've got all these deals that we're going to be putting forward to those fan groups
help those fans.
when we know who's in there. Like,
Got you.
because me just doing a deal at 10% discount or whatever it might be, that's not going to help
Not
everyone.
gonna cut
We want to make every socioeconomic sort of cohort of our fan groups having access. Now, it's probably impossible to get everyone access, as you can probably guess, but we'll do our best to make it as attractive and accessible as we can.
Yeah, I look at it from your point of view. I think you mentioned it just briefly when we were talking about the grand final incident. Communication was the biggest thing.
Yeah,
and when I look at that decision, I think, and again, I'm not an absolute fanatic of any club, so I think that's why the 3-year thing to me, I was like, look, it's 3 years, it's money into the game. I'm not super hurt about it, right? But I feel as though the communication was where a lot of people lost it because they thought it was like, hey guys, you know, this is a new week-long finals, and like.
But also, it was the communication and the timing.
Timing. But I feel as though, like, looking back, do you feel as though if you took a little bit more of a humble approach and said, look where the game's come from, it was left in a really bad spot, which we can all agree it was. We need cash injected into the game. We need this. I don't think it's necessarily the best thing, but we can take $10 million. We can use it to do this, this, and this, stand together through this? Like, you know, that bit more
Yeah.
rogue, humble mentality?
But I get where you're going, and there's a bit of that. But I think part of it is we do believe in our product, that it is worthy of that investment. So by saying we're only doing it because we want the money, that's not actually doing it justice, because we genuinely believe that our grand final should be something of value that the government's paying money for, because they pay for the AFL, they pay for the NRL.
Right.
So why aren't they paying for us? Are we not worthy of that? Well, we are now, because the government's paying for it. And we do believe that we can make a really good celebration of football in that week.
Right.
If we didn't believe in that, we wouldn't have taken the money.
Okay.
I can tell you that honestly, because yes, the money's important. Yes, we need to reinvest. Yes, clubs are losing money and we've got to help them. But if you don't believe in your product, then you shouldn't have done it in the first place.
So after these 3 years, could it be a case of like whichever government puts more cash down, we'll put the final there?
100%. Or we could work out that, you know what, it's not right for our game. Okay. But what I've sort of said to the fans that in those consultation periods is, don't death ride it.
Yeah.
Give it a chance, because you might like it. And if you'd like it and it's worth $20 million in 3 years' time, well, that's money that's not going to me or to the APL. Yeah. It's going back to the clubs.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was I think all that was sort of lost, and that comes back down to communication. I just think we let ourselves down.
I think as fans, we kind of need a lot of clarity when it comes to these kind of things, especially interstate fans, because we've got 5 New South Wales based teams. Yeah. So it's very easy for decisions like this to come across as, well, very biased, because especially for yourself, you've been the CEO of Sydney FC. Yep. You're New South Wales based. It does come across as a fan very biased.
Yeah, and I think that knock was on FA as well. They were always accused of being too Sydney-centric. But I think, for me, that's where the comms was important, because when the club's coming out and supporting the decision as a stakeholder, that was designed to take it away from my decision, because it wasn't my decision on my own.
Yeah.
And you can't erase the past. I was a CEO of Sydney FC, and I'm proud of that. Yeah. And it helps me in my job, because I can understand what clubs need. And that's why we have structured ourselves this way. But, I think that, again, goes back down to the way we executed, and we did a bad job of that. Yeah.
Could you give the fans just a little bit more clarity on this Silver Lake investment, right? So they currently own 33% of the A-League, right? Correct? Yep. What are they doing? What are they bringing to us? What is there, like, talk to us about someone that doesn't have any idea about what they do. Could you just give us a little bit of insight?
Yeah, cool. Yes. Look, Silver Lake are a sophisticated private equity company, invest in sport assets all over the world, UFC, others, right? When we were coming out of the FA, the one thing our sport has never had is it has been properly capitalised. You know, the best concepts in the world fail because they're undercapitalised, and football was undercapitalised. We needed money. But we also needed to deliver a strategy that someone could invest in. And the one thing about football, it is the biggest unfulfilled promise in Australian sport, which means where we are here and where we could go. And that's what investors like to see. They want to see potential, because you pay now and you make lots of money over time as you build enterprise value in the code. And as a sport, we monetize our fan base at about 1/6 of the AFL.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So even if we do half as good a job as the AFL, we make 3 times more than we're making now, which is what investors want to see. But we had to come forward with a strategy, and our strategy was all about going digital first, right? You know, we're the number 1 sport in the country for under 35s. There are 9 million football fans in this country, of which 2 million of them love the A-League. Wow. There's 7 million people out there that either play football, football, who don't care about the A-League yet.
When you put on, what was it last year, the All-Stars v Barca,
but even a lot of people that watch, like, NPL, for example, don't like the A-League.
Correct. Yeah. But that's an issue that the football pyramid's had forever. You know, when the A-League was built, it got wedged on top of an existing football league, which I played in, right? I sympathise with Sydney United and the Marconis, because they're great clubs. I love playing in and around that era. But the reality was the FA made the decision to change the way the league was structured. And from that moment on, there was a wedge between the football pyramid and the professional game. Because it's like, I'm telling you, I won't name him, but I played it with a guy at Sydney United who I hadn't seen in about 15 years. I went to a St George FA presentation night, and I handed over a trophy to a kid, and I recognised his surname, and I went, "Is your dad so-and-so?" And he said, "Yeah, he's here." And I went over and saw him, and I said, "Mate, how you going? I haven't seen you for ages." And he lives in Hurstville, right? So within Jubilee Stadium where we played, 5 minutes from there. I said, "Do you come to Sydney FC games?" He goes, "Why would I do that?"
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, "What do you mean? Your kid loves football, you love football?" He goes, you didn't want us.
Yeah.
It's a very common
Yeah.
sentiment, especially between a lot of the ethnic clubs
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
MPL.
There's a lot of
I know,
anger.
like South Melbourne, things like that. It's very common.
And you'll see with our digital strategy, we're trying to work with the member federations, the FA, to reconnect the game. Because if we can get all of the football economy moving around a digital ecosystem that the A-League has influence over, that our content creators can insert themselves into, that our broadcasters can leverage, and we can actually bring them on the journey and actually give something back to them. Right? The olive branch is about how do we work together to make them better. How do we help the national second tier if it gets up or when it gets up?
Yeah.
Those things, and you'll see with a lot of the work we do around multiculturalism, inclusiveness, that's in our sport's DNA. You can't rail against that. You've got to embrace it because that's what's great about our sport.
Yeah. We're going to get to the second division in a second. I've got a couple of quick questions just on the finances. Because Silver Lake, $140 million investment. Absolutely brilliant. I think a lot of the people were complaining, I guess people that maybe aren't educated on it were like, why do we have to take a $10 million deal when we've got $140 million that came from this Silver Lake group? We still got a lot of that money?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
That's
We're
another
still
misconception. I saw some stuff going, you've drained the swamp. I'm like really? We've invested. The Keep Up investment's been significant, right?
Okay.
To build a digital and data infrastructure that's world class is expensive.
Okay.
But it's there, and it's going to improve, and there's going to be more and more things there. We've got plenty there. But by the way, we also went through COVID. Right, and we helped a lot of clubs out through that period, like the AFL did, like the NRL did. If we didn't have that money then, we would have been in dire straits. So, Silver Lake have been enormously patient. They get it. They're supportive.
Because I felt like with any investor, you have to show return on investment.
Yeah.
And you'd be excused for thinking that maybe accepting deals like this to show that we're making money is also to please these guys that gave you $140
to be
million.
fair, they're playing a long game. Like they've got a long-term tail on their investment. They're not looking to get out anytime soon.
Great, yeah.
So they're patient. They're the right type of investor for us. And we had other investors that were looking for shorter runways. We're like, no, we're not going to do that because it's going to take time.
Yeah.
You can't turn around something like this overnight. It's going to take sustained commitment, investment, and that's what we're doing.
Well, they're invested in City Football Group,
yeah.
and also New Zealand Rugby.
Yeah, New Zealand
Yeah,
Rugby.
yeah,
they're in
so they're big.
UFC.
So they've got a few
IMG
sports,
Endeavour.
even I think Madison Square Garden Sports. So they've got a few.
Yeah, I don't know if they're in that anymore, but yeah,
They're everywhere.
They're
everywhere.
in
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah.
They get it.
So that's why Melbourne City win the league every year.
Well, yeah.
that
Is
what
there
that-
any? Yeah. Is there any kind of? They've invested in the league, but they're also invested in City Football Group.
Conflict of interest?
Kind of conflict of interest there?
No, not at all. I think they don't. And they'll be the first to tell you they're not very good at picking football.
Yeah.
They're a tech media
Yeah.
investor,
Soccer, baby.
and I think what they see is and they're not alone, by the way. If you look at all the private equity companies around the world that are identifying football as a very investable proposition, what are our strengths? We're the world game.
Yeah.
We're the number one sport in the world.
Yeah.
If we didn't play to those strengths here, like bringing out international teams, which you get criticised for,
Yeah.
tell you if Gil McLaughlin could bring out the best AFL team in the world, you think he'd do it? Absolutely not. Right? So, we do these things to connect ourselves to our strengths. No one's coming down here to invest in the Sydney Swans from Silicon Valley.
No.
They don't even know who they are. But they know about football and they know the power of football. And they know you can make good money out of football if you get it right. And they're backing our strategy.
Yeah. Talking about, you spoke about the Keep Up app as well. There was quite a big investment from that Silver Lake investment that went into that Keep Up kind of sphere of things, and it was like 30 million or something like that.
I never believe what you read on
Yeah,
Twitter.
I know. Sydney Morning Herald. It was like it was a decent investment, no?
Yeah, absolutely. It was certainly not that, but it was it was decent.
Yeah.
for
What
anyone.
kind of is the idea behind that now? Because obviously there's the Keep Up app that people know about. It's not the greatest app in the world. I'll be real.
Do you have it, Cap?
I do.
Do you have it on?
It's.
I
Do
do
you know
not have
what?
it.
No?
My main
No.
issue with the Keep Up app.
When you just on an A-League
Yeah,
advertisement
but that don't
campaign,
mean that they didn't pay me to download the app.
The main
Pay me to
issue
do
with this
fucking-
app is literally
Dear ideas.
because
I'll just take a note of that.
Ryan Downey's got a red cross. Next, you're going to see people at A-League games with
Sorry.
Olan's face with a red cross on it. No, my main issue with that app is the fact that I want to play A-League fantasy, but it's shit. Like, I can't do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously there's just the app. But is there
That's
a
what you
bigger?
really think.
Yeah, it is.
No, look, I think and you've clearly probably never built digital infrastructure
course
and
not.
apps before. It's bloody hard.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
and you normally take years to build them,
Yeah,
and
so-
then you release them. We had 9 months.
Yeah.
Right. So it's time. You know,
Decent enough, considering.
Yeah. Well, look,
If it
it's
only
not.
took
Do we think
9
it's
months.
perfect? Far from it. Like
Yeah.
it's a minimum viable product. That's what an MVP is, and that's what we launched. And
Yeah.
you'll start to see it iterate. It'll get better and better and
Yeah.
better and better. But importantly, it's going to deliver more things. At the moment, it's largely a content offering,
Yeah.
right? But when we start to drive into the football community and deliver e-commerce opportunities, rewards programs, lots of different things that
Yeah.
will start to get people motivated to use it, from grassroots football up to the professional game. That's what Silver Lake invested in. They invested in a digital-first transformation that no sport's done to the degree we're doing it. And I think if we get it right, we'll be well ahead of some of our competitors who are dining out on the big fat TV checks.
Yeah, well, it's all moving to mobile and digital, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I consider myself an MVP, actually. You mentioned that.
I'm not even that at the moment.
no, believe me, I'm far from it too. Paramount.
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
5 years, 200 mil. Apparently, we needed that at the time, definitely. Cash plus commercial contra was what
Yes.
was said as well
Yeah,
of that deal. And I think a lot of fans don't really know exactly what that means, big business terms. But how do you view the Paramount partnership so far? Has it been a success?
Yeah, absolutely. Without Paramount, again, you look at all these things that got us to where we are today.
Yeah.
They were key because they also bought into the same strategy.
Okay.
Right? Because if you looked at where we were coming out of Foxtel, we wouldn't have been worth a third of that.
Okay.
But they believed in the long term, and we wanted a partner that was going to believe in the long term. Because what we were when they took over with COVID as well, we moved 130 matches that year.
Wow.
Right, 130 in the whole history of the A-League. They'd moved 25
Jeez.
in 18 years, and we moved 130 that year. And they just said that is what it is.
Yeah.
If that was on another network, I'm sure we would have been probably queuing up to pan money back.
Okay.
But they said, nah, we get it. It's not great, but we'll live with it. And they also realise that they've got a long way to go as well. They're just learning how to be a football broadcaster. I think, the production last year compared to this year is continuing to improve. Their technology platform, they've committed to doing the things that we know it needs to do.
Just a sport tab would be really good.
There is a sport tab now.
Because I was going to find A-League. I ended
There
up
is
watching
one now.
South Park. I love South Park.
Yeah, they've
so I
got
get
one
hooked
now.
on
That's
5
only-
episodes
that's
and I
only
missed the game. I
recently
missed the
there
There
game.
is a sport tab
It's only
now.
coming
Okay.
recently.
It has?
Yeah, they have.
Okay.
You keep talking about, like, with Silver Lake Investments, that's for a long period of time. Paramount, a long period. So obviously, with these decisions you're making, you're obviously looking to the future of the league. We are a very young league. Like, we've only been around for a very short amount of time. So obviously, the decisions that you're making now, how do you think that they're going to affect the league in the long run?
What our strategy is about is probably 3 to 4 years from now, when all the things we're doing are starting to generate lots more money that allow us to reinvest in the game. But we've got to bridge ourselves to that point. And that's what these big deals are about, and reasons why we do things like the final series is because, we've got to build stability and security around our game. Have to, because I always say, like, if you want me as a CEO to sit here and do nothing, just take a check and spend the money, and then in 6 years go, whoops, there's no more money left, guys, sorry.
Yeah.
That's not me. No. I want this game to be the best it can be, and that's going to take hard work, and it's going to take decision making, and you won't always be popular, but as long as everyone knows that I'm doing it because I love it.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I mean, we saw your business was very successful. You sold it for a lot of cash. I hope I can sell my business for that much. You probably don't have to be doing
10%
this.
of that,
I don't
bro.
think you have to be doing. If I was you, I'd probably be on a yacht somewhere.
Yeah, same.
Just chilling out. We got to move it on though. Let's talk a bit of expansion. People get excited with expansion.
Yeah.
There's 2 conversations going on now. There's Auckland and Canberra.
Yeah.
And is that official? Is that?
Yeah. We haven't denied it publicly, which usually means it's official.
Yeah. Auckland and Canberra. But then there's also this national second division.
Yeah.
It's exciting for a football fan that has no real allegiance either side. I'm just like, more football is always good news.
Yeah, 100%.
Is the national second division though? Is that a bit of a threat to the A-League? I mean, you guys are the Australian professional leagues.
Yeah.
If a second professional league happens, does that not fall under the Australian professional leagues?
No, look, not at the moment, and I think at the end of the day, our job is to look after what we unbundled from the FA, right?
So that will be under the FA.
That'll be under the FA. Now, can we work with them on certain things? We should, absolutely, because more good football clubs in this country is good for us, right? Yeah. Because it means the game is moving forward. How professional it is, semi-professional, where that lands, we don't know, but we've said from the beginning we're supportive of it because, like I said, we just want more good football clubs. And you know what? In the future, if those football clubs are in a competition that gives us comfort that they're going to be able to compete at our level on and off the pitch and deliver a product that we can be proud of, come on in. Like we'll work that
So
through.
is that you saying that some teams could be going to the?
It's a long way to go, because there isn't even a national second tier yet. Well, there is. It's called the NPL, and it exists. And in my opinion, the NPL is great competition.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, our
played
clubs,
in it. We both played in it.
Our club's playing it. It's a great standard. You know, so it's already there. If we're putting another layer on top, let's see how that goes, and you know, we'll support it where we can.
A lot of people want promotion relegation in this country.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it. But sometimes I feel like in Australia, we're stuck between an MLS model and a European model. And both are successful. The MLS is incredibly successful.
It is.
Right?
It's so true.
And they're just adding new teams every year. They're almost at 500 teams over there.
It's very American.
And it's very American.
It is very
Yeah, bigger is better, right?
Yeah.
Two conferences. We could go to two conferences.
We could.
You know what I mean? But do you sometimes feel like you're torn between two? Because I feel like, let's talk about McDonald's. If I bought a McDonald's franchise, and you told me I can't sell beef in 3 years, I probably wouldn't buy that franchise.
Yeah.
How do you convince an A-League franchise owner that he or she might get relegated?
Look, they're got a license in perpetuity, right? They're in the competition. They're in the A-League. There is no other league, right? So until there is a league, and until that league proves to the football community that it is able to get remotely close to what it takes to be professional compared to what it takes to run a semi-pro club, it is very different. Trust me. Like I've seen it. I played in semi-professional clubs in the old NSL, and you know, my NSL brethren will probably kill me, but the standard of football now, you know, is so much higher because of the investment that's gone into development pathways, into the high performance facilities. It's chalk and cheese.
Yeah, okay.
But you can see when the Australian Cup comes around, I love
standard's
that
not-
competition, right?
Yeah,
because
it's-
it's
I
not
don't
a
think
million
the
miles
standard-
away.
I don't think the standard between, in terms of playing, like actual players, is massive between the MPL one, like those top teams in the MPL one and A-League.
Arguably, I think you've got probably players in the MPL that should be playing A-League and they're not.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you've got players
expansion
in
will help that.
A-League that should be playing MPL.
fringe
but
players.
they're not.
Look, I'm not sure about that. I think that MPL.
Not sure about the other way, but that was
No, but I do
Tell
know.
them how you really feel, Kat.
I think the NPL is great, and I think, you know, when you see our youth teams playing in the NPL one,
Yeah.
you know, I think Sydney FC at the moment are like running third or fourth in the NPL,
Yeah.
NPL one. So you know, and they're good young players, right? They're the best young players
It's
in the
tough
country.
to play against them boys when you're playing in the MPL.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
they're full time, they don't stop running, they're checking in here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, just give me a rest.
But I think that's what expansion's about as well, is right. How do you create more professional playing opportunities for Australian and New Zealand players? That's what it's about, and that's why we're expanding, or one of the reasons anyway.
Yeah, Auckland and Canberra, exciting. I think, is there any chance it's going to be Auckland City, or will it be a whole new team?
No, it'll be a whole new team. We've said we're not going to go elevate one team out of that football community, because for these, one thing we learned from Australia, right, is that just dropping a team on top of a football community or elevating one of them out of there will disenfranchise the rest. This club in Auckland needs to be fully representative of all of Auckland football.
Okay.
Auckland City may well be involved in that.
Okay.
And so might Auckland United or Western Springs or whoever else those big teams are over there.
Right.
So was that the thought process behind Western United then?
I can't answer that because it was the FA made that decision. I think, and again, without speaking on behalf of the FA, I think my understanding at the time as a CEO of another club was the rationale was that both Macarthur and Western United were in growth corridors.
Yeah.
Right. So young football family communities that they wanted to grow with those communities. You know, the challenge Western United's had is they don't have a home ground in that community. So I know firsthand it's very hard to build a fan base when you're not on the ground there. You're not there, because you could go to a school and hand out a ticket and the kid goes home and goes, I want to go to a game at Western United, and you've got to go 45 minutes to Amy Park.
Yeah.
Parents says
Not
no.
happening. No.
Yeah.
Geelong. It needs to be in
Geelong.
Geelong, doesn't it?
Geelong.
I thought it was Geelong.
It is
It
Geelong.
is Geelong. He's just taking the piss.
I'm taking the piss.
I was like, hold on a
I
second.
thought it was Geelong.
I've been saying it wrong.
No, I mean, look, there's no doubt. There's the potential's always there. The potential's always there. National second division expansion. Will Canberra be Canberra United?
Look, the name, who knows?
So it's got nothing to do with the women's.
No, we are working with Capital Football to move the women's into that. Of course, it'll be the one entity.
Okay.
So
Okay,
that they're again just working through that. Whether they
Yeah.
keep the name is up to the people that run the club.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's an incredible moment for women's football, and I think the last thing I definitely want to talk about is the Women's World Cup's going to be huge. We spoke about it off air. Like, I don't think people realize how big this thing is going to be. It's going to be amazing, right? And even just for you're CEO of the A-Leagues, we all do different things, but together we're all just fans. Just going to be in awe of this thing and the whole world coming here to play football. Yeah. from an A-League's perspective, though, what are you hoping to piggyback off the back of this World Cup for the women's game?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you know when it's going to be big when your phone's pinging with people that don't normally go to the football who want tickets, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And I can't help them out.
Smooching off you for tickets.
But like the derby this weekend, my phone's blowing up because people want to go, right?
Yeah.
So when that starts to
put them
happen,
in the cove. It's going to be empty.
Nah, too soon. Too soon.
There you go.
Joe's over there. He's not happy about that.
I'm
Joey's
thinking of
not
going sitting on my own with an esky in the cove. Anyway.
Yeah, we will see. But no, look, I think for us, when you look at the grand final last week, 10,000 people, probably half of those people never went to an A-League women's game before. So it's about getting young female footballers, male footballers along to a football match for the first time. And there'll be millions of people that go to a football match for the first time over that time. And how we then convince them to come and watch their heroes play next year or next season, I should say, which is a couple of months after the World Cup, will be really important. And that's great for football. It's great. I think it's great for sport. Like, it's going to be a great sporting event. It's great for football. It's great for women's football. It's great for women.
It's great for Australian football.
I mean, I was in England when they won the Euros.
Yeah.
And the whole vibe when the
Crazy,
women's team won was just like, you can see how much they inspired the next generation of female footballers. So hopefully, the same thing happens with the Matildas for sure.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. It's going to be enormous.
Yeah, no, it's massive. It's massive. And there's so much we can keep talking about in this. But one thing we also got to speak about, you talk about it, the size of this game in Europe and the finals week, and everything really comes to this match that a lot of people were expecting, that All-Stars match that you guys mentioned. We had Barcelona in town. There were rumours we were going to have Bayern Munich. My first question,
what
were
happened?
we going to have Bayern Munich at one point?
We absolutely were.
Wasn't
We were
that
about to have
this
Bayern
week?
Munich.
Yeah, we were very close.
We were
Bayern
very
Munich.
close.
Yeah.
I think they got their own problems going on over there at Bayern, don't they?
Yeah, what happened?
Passions.
What happened?
Then this rumour came out that apparently we didn't have the cash to pay Bayern.
No, that was incorrect because it was like $8 million. Like,
Right.
really? $8 million? Wow. For one game of football? Not a chance. So,
So that's how much they want. For
no,
one.
that's what the rumour was
Oh,
coming
okay.
out. That's what the
I
German
was like,
press...
what? Is that how much
That's
they-
what the German press said. I
Okay.
think it was the Bild said it was $8 million, which is absolutely nowhere near what it was. But the actual challenge with that was timing, because essentially they got knocked out of the German Cup.
Yeah.
So no player wants to really go on and play a game at the end of a long season. And this season was extended because of the World Cup was in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Pretty much every one of their players played in that World Cup. So they've played a very long season, you know, Champions League, the Bundesliga, the German Cup, everything, right? So the coaches and the playing staff often don't want to do it. Barcelona loved it, by the way, last year, but they want to go on holidays. They want to be in Ibiza.
Yeah.
Right? You got to go to Sydney to play a game.
They do need a break.
They were willing to do it, but they wanted to come earlier. And that was just timing wasn't going to work. Right. So, you know, I think we're committed to the All-Stars concept. It was amazing for us last year. It launched, you know, Qual's career. It launched Duran Kunda's career. Kai Rolls played in that game, and he's gone on to big things. So, you know, it plays its role in trying to get those people to the games that may not normally go to the A-League. Barcelona fans that may now be coming to the A-League as a result of that game. So we'll keep doing it. We want to do a women's All-Stars as well next year. So this year just didn't light up, unfortunately.
Okay. There's rumours going around there'll be an NPL All-Stars playing.
There is.
Is that
Is that
no?
confirmed?
I
I was going to say, I've been trying to get
Not
fit for
that
that.
moon boot.
Yeah, I'm trying to get fit for that game, mate. You know what I mean?
Nah, we do love it when the world game, I guess, crosses paths with our local game, and we've got.
It's not the craziest idea, by the way.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? I mean, we're
isn't that
available.
not just what the kind of Australia Cup?
Yeah, but
Kinda
you can
does.
take the best of the best.
The best of the
But then you can get
NPL.
all of them.
The best of the NPL.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
played the State of
That'd be
Origin last year.
Yeah.
New South Wales versus Queensland.
Yeah, they did that.
Why don't we just throw a hat in the ring
Yeah.
for Leo Messi, right? Apparently the Saudis...
He's off contract.
Apparently the Saudis have $600 million that they're going to offer him, but they don't have beaches like ours. Let's be real. Come on, it's too hot over there.
Can you do anything
But
about that?
$600
Well,
million to Silver Lake?
you remember I went after Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So you did, right?
Yeah, we made him an offer. Yeah,
Did you actually?
I was $180 million short. I really was. I was literally $180 million short. So I came within $180 million of getting Ronaldo.
So who do you speak to?
His agent. Well, actually, it was his brother. Brother-in-law, I should
Is
say.
this true,
brother-in-law.
correct? Apparently, he takes 15,000 just for a meeting.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Cristiano?
Yeah.
No, he paid to meet me. He had a few on the final series, actually. It was quite soul-destroying. But no, mate, we met with his brother-in-law. And his brother-in-law was sort of acting as an intermediary in Qatar during the World Cup. And at that stage, he actually said to us he wanted to prove to Man United that he was going to go to a big club and still win trophies. But then I think...
Right, but now doesn't he? I've heard that he's
It's not
wanting to
working out.
leave now.
Yeah, it's not working
Oh,
out.
yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, he might pick my number back up.
Yeah.
No, but look, he that's what he told us.
Yeah.
But then I'd say the Saudi money hit the table and he went, whoa, that's
Yeah.
pretty hard to say no to. So.
Have you seen I Am Georgina on Netflix?
No.
No. So it's a show about his partner Georgina.
His wife spending his money, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
Wait,
it's a good show, but
I'm not
it's
saying,
essentially
but that's
just her
basically what.
That's tough to spend that amount of money. I'd like to see that.
That's what I'm saying. She's got
That's
stuff to
bad.
Is
do.
my wife in it as
I
well?
like it.
My wife might be in that as well.
Yeah. Spending your cash.
You can make a doco about a lot of our wives, for sure.
Our cash, exactly right. I think that's the way to get Ronaldo because I've watched a little bit of that show. I think if you convince
get Georgina?
her, if you convince Georgina,
Got you.
Yeah,
with the
she's-
Bondi
Bring
lifestyle.
it a
Oh,
Bondi?
she'd 100% come here.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe Gold Coast. She could be a Gold Coast type. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Goldie, yeah.
Trouble, Gold Coast. Maybe that's the way that we get him down there. But really, besides Messi, Ronaldo would be great. Zlatan's one you should look at.
He's about 43 now, isn't he?
Hey, he's a machine. Though.
Is he 43 now?
He's always been my
He's at
guy
least
that
40.
if we could get Zlatan into
Yeah.
this league, he'd just be mint. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's
He'd come
there
on the pod, I reckon, and say.
Do you guys look at that? Just like, do you say, oh, you know, what marquee player could we bring in this season? Do you guys look at that?
Yeah, of course. We look. We've got a register of all the players that we would think are going to move the needle here, and when they're off contract, and how old they are, and what likelihood if there's any connection. Like the connection with Ronaldo was his grandmother was living in Perth, right? So there was like maybe that might be an angle for us. Is an expansion team potentially an angle for us? You know, with like they did with Beckham and Miami. So all that stuff you think about and you look at and you talk to agents and you know the good thing is that now the agents over there know we're here. And they know that we're an option. And, you know, good agents put the feelers out and say, hey, who wants player X? And we'll get on the phone and have a crack.
So despite Nani, Austin, Sturridge, like Marquis still
Yeah,
a central
but
plan
like,
for us?
no offense, and God bless, they've been great players in their prime. Average.
Well,
Bang
I'm
average.
just saying.
No, but they came to the league.
But I'm saying those three weren't
average.
successful.
Well,
Everyone's
Yeah, well,
successful
that's
because they were
just to be
average.
clear, Sturridge and Austin weren't marquees.
They weren't marquees, right?
They were just club
Nani
recruited.
They were
was-
just desperate.
They were just club recruited, right? And we got some like Schneidel and Diamante.
We've
These
had
guys are
some
great
really good-
players who
yeah.
aren't considered league marquees. You know, Del Piero. Yeah, these guys are world class, right? So there is history there, and Nani, you'd argue, is world class, right? He was it was disappointing for him. You never like to see someone go down injured. He's done an ACL, not good, but. We never really got to see the best of him in this league.
Well, we didn't really get to see anything of him at all.
I think the doco part that they did on him was really good because
I actually haven't seen that.
You definitely got to see
I'm
the
just
insight
not
into
interested,
how
to be honest.
seriously he was actually taking.
Oh,
it.
I can categorically confirm he was really serious. He's a proper athlete. Like you saw the way he looks after himself.
Yeah.
You asked the players, he was a leader in the dressing room. He did all the right things. He just didn't play the way we would have liked him to.
It's unfortunate, but
It
it
was
is what it is, I guess.
unfortunate. Hopefully, I mean, it's good to hear Marquis still a part of the strategy. We'd love to see some big names. We are running out of time, but I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit
Yeah.
because we have the man himself right here, and I want to say A-League. Let's say in 5 years' time, you close your eyes and you imagine the A-League, Olan. What's one thing you would love to see different in 5 years' time about this?
See
league?
different.
See different when you see Australian football in 5 years.
I think
One change.
I think one thing I'd love to see is just the change in the perspective in media in terms of how they spin the fans, calling them hooligans, calling them
The H word.
mainstream. That's what I would love to see change. I know it's probably going to be it's a hard ask, but I'd just love to see it, if not on the same level as NRL, AFL.
There's a big agenda against us, Danny.
There is, and that's why we've got to stick together.
Yeah.
Like that's what I say. It's like we can't beat ourselves because everyone else wants to beat us. And I think when you talk to other CEOs of leagues, you know, the one sport they're scared of is us. If we get our shit together,
Powerful.
no one can compete with us, which is why they love to suppress us. They love to, write stories that are not helpful. So we're fighting that fight.
Kat, in 5 years' time, what's the biggest thing you'd love to see different?
The development of women's football. I think it's really great and it's really growing, and we can see that with the final, which arguably, I mean, it was a Sydney-based team in a Sydney-based final, whatever. But we can see women's football in this country is growing, and it's growing at such a fast rate. In 5 years, I would hope that the women's game is on par with the men's game, because realistically, right,
Full-time pro is the biggest thing.
you
right?
mean
the men's game
That's
in
not
this
gonna
country,
happen.
it's not huge. It could be bigger. It's not huge. So I think that there is a chance that if there is enough development and enough investment going into the women's game, that it can be on the same level as the men's game.
Yeah, and look,
because they're on an even playing field almost.
there's a lot of money going into it, right? And needs more. But the league can't do it on its own. You know, we haven't received a cent of funding from governments. The FA have received
the
quite a
women's
bit of
game?
money, not a cent, right? The women's professional game has been funded by the 12 club owners for 15 years, right? And they'll keep doing it. We're expanding the competition. We're extending it.
Yeah.
More money. Why? Because we believe in it.
Yeah.
Whether it's 5 years or 10, there is no reason why the women's competition cannot be as big as the men in time. But we've got to be realistic. It's
Yeah,
gonna
of
take
course.
time.
Yeah, it's going to take time.
I think I'd probably love to just see the development of cultures of the clubs in their communities. And one of those things for me is I get very excited by smaller grounds, suburban grounds.
totally.
I know the news of Brisbane Roar going back to
Preston Lions.
Yeah. Oh, you saw the packed game on
That's
the
what I'm
weekend,
saying.
Preston
That
Lions.
sort
Yeah,
of ground is the side
That
like
is
the
so-
line.
that's
It's like
very
League Two.
standard.
Yeah,
sort
it's
of-
League Two. It's like in close.
And
It's
that's why I think watching a game in Adelaide is probably the best live atmosphere you can get. Amy Park gives us a bit of that, and I'd love to see the
Cooper
A-League in a
Stadium,
position where,
arguably the best stadium in the country
Yeah.
to watch
Yes.
football at.
right?
awesome.
When new teams come in, we have a second division, and we celebrate very specific community and cultures. And like we saw the Western Sydney Wanderers, there was a community there demanding a team. But Danny, for you, 5 years time, there's so much you got on your plate.
No,
But what's-
for me, the barometer for your sport is bums on seats.
Okay.
I want to see full stadiums. I want to see great atmosphere because you walk into a ground that's humming, and this is our challenge. You go to a Sydney derby, you got the Cove and the RBB going nuts. There's 30,000 people at Combank's packed. And then you go to another game the next day, and it's in a big cavernous stadium with 6,000 people in it. That's not the same product.
No,
right?
no.
So we got to get our product right. I think the quality of the football is good. You know, it's entertaining, but it's the atmosphere in the ground, and that only comes when you got full stadiums. So whether that's fit for purpose stadiums, which is hard for us in Australia because we don't have as many stadiums to choose from.
Well, you're making sure Tasmania is going to make that.
Well, but that
I heard you say that they better make sure that football can be played. In
Well,
that
we're
thing.
not playing in that stadium if it's round.
Okay.
Because it just goes against everything I just said. You know, with the expansion franchises, part of the reason we chose the two cities is they've got rectangular stadiums that will create an atmosphere that we can.
Well,
sell
we
into.
did used to play. I remember the Adelaide Melbourne victory final years ago
At
at
Adelaide
the
Oval.
old Telstra Dome,
Oh yeah.
and it was full.
Yeah, like I think for
but you're too
one-offs.
far from the
Yeah.
pitch.
But I think, look, for one-off events, like when you go watch Man United at MCG, everyone's like, they're great.
Yeah.
Doing that 13 times a
Weekend.
year.
How do you get a round football stadium to be a square?
They have retractable
rectangles,
seats.
right.
So there's retractable seats that come in either side.
Oh.
Whoa, mind blown.
No, I didn't know that's how they
Physics
did it.
lesson
Do you know why? 'Cause I'm
101.
like,
It's not cheap.
how are they going to make a round? Like, they can't make an AFL stadium square.
Yeah, they
that
just-
doesn't work.
They just slide the seats in.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But
More
it's
rectangular
expensive, right? So they go, I don't want to spend the money on that. I'll go, well, fine, we're not coming.
We're not playing there, yeah. Okay. Well, brilliant. I mean, I would love to see if ideally, great situation would be if all those come true and we see Australian football in a much better place. Danny, I'll tell you what, I got to commend you for stepping out here and coming on the Born Offside podcast.
awesome.
You never know what's going to be said on here.
Yeah,
Nah,
thank
look,
you.
it's good
It was
fun.
pretty chill. It was pretty
Nah, look, you ask the hard questions. That's what it's all about. And look, like I said, transparency is where we're headed, and we want to be open and honest with our fans as best we can. And doing sort of stuff like this is part and parcel.
Well,
Yeah.
season's almost over.
Yeah.
Women's World Cup will be on, but any holidays planned, mate? You going European sun or what?
No,
To work on
the
that
business,
tan?
the work starts, mate, when the grand final ends because
Yeah.
you got to rev up for next year. I think I was saying July for us might be a little bit of a down period, but
The
we've
World
got
Cup's
too much
on,
to
you
do,
can't go
mate.
anywhere.
Too much to
I
do.
hate to be married to you, mate. Just to be,
Well,
Yeah.
that makes two of people who hate to be married to me.
Where are the holidays? You know?
There's
Yeah,
two people
for
that
real.
hate that.
Oh, I love it, mate.
All
Thanks so
good.
much for joining
Nah,
us.
thanks,
It's
guys.
been
Really
wonderful.
Thank you.
Joe, can I
Appreciate
just
it.
ask you one question?
Yeah,
Do
sure.
you have anything you'd like to say to soccer Twitter?
I'm not on Twitter. I'm not allowed to say anything on
Well,
Twitter.
can we
anymore.
see him back? Will we see him back?
Will we
Oh,
see
look,
him
you know,
back ever?
I would love to be back at some point, and let me
When
let
the
the
death
dust
threats
settle.
kinda stop and
Well,
all
there's a
that kind of
parody
thing.
account now, which means I've made it, right? There's a
Yeah.
DRT 155.
There is, I saw it the other
that
day.
I've got told, and some people believe it's me, which sounds like it's good, but not for now, but maybe soon.
Maybe soon.
I do miss it.
Yeah, we'd love to see. There's been a few parody accounts at UCAT. I've seen.
Has
a
it?
few,
Yeah,
A
plenty.
few
I
fake Tinder profiles of you as well.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah,
People
there
called
is a lot.
Stephanie, Angelica, you name it.
Yeah.
I've been
I
it.
think when you get a banner
Yeah.
and you get a parody account, I think you're there.
When people
Yeah.
start wearing my face on their shirt,
made it.
cross
Yeah,
my
that's
face,
what
that's
you
when you
made
know
it.
you've done
No,
it.
no, I want the big dick in the mouth like Graham Harmon. That's the one I want.
Yeah,
No,
that was-
pause.
Yeah.
Oh, like-
I just want
Are
my
you talking
merch.
Yeah, what about merch?
That's all I want.
You want your merch?
I just want my merch
Hang
to be
on.
You just
appreciated.
want 3 sales.
Yeah, I think I've had 5.
Then aren't you parent? No family included.
I'll buy some.
Yeah, just send him the link.
That's
and
what I
reply.
Give me
said
the
it to
link.
you.
I'm in.
I'll send it
Love
to
it,
you.
guys. Thanks so much for joining us here, all of you, on the Born Offside podcast. Guys, have an awesome weekend. Get down to your A-Leagues matches. We'll see you next time.